Hey, well, thank you so much for being willing to talk with me. I kind of shared a little bit on, the email I sent out to you originally when I was asking if you'd be willing to talk, and I've just been feeling this like weight, like I need to do something, right?
Right, right.
And if I didn't do something, it would just keep eating at me, and so anyway, here we go, and
Yeah,
I want to just kind of give you the floor and the platform, and I've got questions I can ask along the way, but I'd like to hear your thoughts and your story, and I want to do this, like I said, every day for a month, and
okay.
just to hear all the stories. And I think so often it's easy for people just to think, oh, that's just that one story, or that's this.
Right.
When we can hear from a lot of just regular people, hey,
Yeah,
this is what my experience is.
right.
I think it can be really eye-opening, and
Yeah,
I'm excited for what the next month has in store. So,
yeah. Yeah, no, again, thanks for having me. This is awesome, man. Shoot, where do I begin, man? Well, no, I'm from, from the Tri-Cities, born and raised in Pasco, Washington. It's on my neighborhood was considered the East Side, and that's kind of like where the African Americans, blacks, that's where we reside. That's just kind of how it was from my age group. Talking to like my dad and my grandfather and stuff like that, that was like the secluded area. Like that was the side that the blacks you had to be on. That's the side that you belong on. I didn't really understand it, until I got a little older, where I realized that you know it was a real thing. And I mean, it was to the point where we would call up Domino's or Pizza Hut, and they wouldn't come to our side of the tracks. Like we had to meet them on their side to pick up the pizza. Um, and that was kind of like the eye opener. Like, oh man, like okay, this is real. Then things just start. I just start catching on little things here and there. Most of it was I was raised like to treat everybody with respect. That's just what it was. So I have friends, white, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever you can name it. Um, but it didn't start hitting me until middle school when openly just one of my or a kid, white kid at the school just openly just called me a nigger, like it was nothing. Like like it was like it was easy to say. Like there was no repercussion behind it. I fought a lot, so my got a lot of whoopings from that from pops. But I mean, I was trying to channel my anger, didn't understand what was going on. Why was I being hated? Why were these things being said? I mean, it just goes even further down the road. I wasn't always at Pasco High. I went to Kamiakin, which is located in Kennewick, Washington. Predominantly more, the white community in that area. Um, had friends. I mean, like any other teenager, stuff like that. I was unfortunately always that token black guy that was there. But whenever was one of them to come hang out with me where I'm from to learn who I am, it was an automatic no. And I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand why. And then then I started kind of in a way snooping. So I would just ask, and then I would watch my friend go in and talk to his parents, and then I kind of stand by the door to kind of put an ear, like, and they were just like, no, he's.
I lost you right there. He's frozen up. You still got me?
Let's see. You there? You there?
I'm here. So last I heard
Okay.
is your friends would go into the house to ask the parents, and they would say
Yeah.
no, and that's kind of where I lost you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and I mean, they just would just flat out tell me, or tell them, like, is, he lives in a black neighborhood, that crowd, it was just, again, it was secluding, like segregating, putting me in this, and it hurt. It hurt big time. I think the final straw for me was one of my teachers, at Kamiakin. And me and his grandson were really close, and he just flat out told me, like, I don't want my grandson around you and your people. And it just took me, it just threw me off. I remember going home, and my mom knew I was upset, and then she gave them an earful, of how she felt on it, because it tore me down, and I just really just didn't understand. But then it started making sense. It was just racism, man. It was real. It was what it was. It was always myths, like hearing it from my grandfather, that blacks had to be in Pasco by nighttime. They couldn't be in Kennewick or Richland, and there were literal signs that said coloreds had to be, on this side. So,
and to put that into perspective,
right?
You're not an old man. You're
No, yeah.
early 30s, right? So
Yes.
this was in the early 2000s. Is that when it
Yeah.
was?
Yeah. Like, this is, like with being told, by my friend's grandfather. Yeah, that was in the 2000s, those early 2000s in high school. Wow. And again, like in the 60s, and, what my grandfather was telling me and what my dad would always say, like, that's just what it was. And what's going on now, it's, my biggest thing, what I take from it, at the end of the day, we have to find peace. Separation and division right now is pure evil. And that's, I feel, on a faithful base, I believe that's what the enemy wants. I feel there has to be an understanding, I have friends to this day that know it happens. When all this craziness has been going on, besides the COVID, messaged me and was like, hey man, and I haven't talked to this classmate, gosh, man, Dan, like maybe graduation. Like, I haven't talked to this guy. And that was high school, and he reached out to me out on Facebook and was like, hey man, I remember coming from practice, and he's like, I didn't know why they were talking bad about you, man. Like, he's like, you never were a bad guy. He's like, you would give your shirt for anybody. Like, he's like, you were just that type of guy. He's like, so as a teenager, he's like, I didn't say anything because obviously I was just being respectful to my, my elders. But yeah, he's like, they would say bad things about you, man. And he's like, I just never knew why. Like, never knew why until now it's starting to click. And it's just like I haven't seen more blatant racism on this side. It's more undertone. It's more behind your back. It's more, yeah, I'm your friend in your face, but not right now. I'll see you later, kind of a thing. And it's, I don't know if that hurts more than the straight to the face, man.
Right.
So that that's just kind of always just been how it's been. Unfortunately,
So you mentioned now it's kind of undertones.
Yes.
We've had our first black president.
Right.
There are people who say, well, is this even really a thing anymore? Is it? And obviously you've experienced it directly. Maybe it's not as obvious to people around as it was in the 50s and so forth. Have we gotten better as a country, would you say? Or, where are we, in your opinion?
I feel like we've kind of swept it under the rug. You know what I mean? I feel like we kind of swept it under the rug, and that's just kind of where it's at. And it's kind of like, it's under the rug, let's move forward instead of dealing with the issue. And I think part of the country, I know, like from the black point of view, we want it out on the table. But we want it. Let's not forget that at the end of it, we want peace. We want to be together, like how we all speak it. But wiping it under the rug is not gonna do it, and that's what most of us are feeling. I feel that there are some that genuinely just don't know, though, Dan. You know what I mean? That's why I appreciate this, this opportunity. I feel like there are some people that just don't know, and they want to know, like, why, like, what's going on, and that's why I have had, some of my white friends get a hold of me and like, hey man, tell me your side of it, like what's going on, because I don't know. I guess they're not playing like it's a myth, because I have seen that too. And I have some family members, because I have some family members that are white, and they don't see it at all, and it's caused some tension in the family, and it's not even to the point where like, okay, well, try to explain it to me. It's they don't see it, they don't want to see it, and that's just it, and it's not a real thing. So that, I know from a personal, that's not what I want.
Right.
I want it to be known, and I want to find a solution.
And I've heard you bring up twice that a friend that you haven't even seen since high school and a couple others reached out and say, hey, what's going on? I think a lot of times people don't want to approach the subject.
Right.
It's like anything else. So somebody loses a loved one, and do we talk to it? We don't want to bring up the hurt. Like, what do we do?
Right.
But you appreciated those people reaching out, correct?
Oh yeah, man. No, yeah, it hit the heart in a different way. It just, I mean, and again, I mean, they could believe something completely different, but the fact that they told me like, hey man, I'm here. Like regardless of how I feel about the subject, just know that I love you and we're boys. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what I know, that's what I want, and I want them to understand.
Okay, so one other thing that just occurred to me as you were talking about, hey, it's kind of the thing we don't talk about. We sweep it under the rug. People just want to move on. But if we take it away from a race issue and we just make it a relationship issue, okay? If you and I are friends and we have a conflict and I offended you somehow, I did something wrong to you, we don't, in a healthy relationship, you don't just act like it never happened and move on. At some point, there has to be an acknowledgement that I hurt you. And I'm sorry I did it. And, what can we do to move past this? And then you talk through it, and then it's not that little hidden thing anymore. You can actually deal with it, right? And this to me is just a relationship, right? And so acknowledging what happened, has our country fully acknowledged, the wrongs of slavery and civil rights movement, what happened with segregation and all those things? Is there anything, I teach history, and I know there's been a few little minor things here and there, but what do we need to do to acknowledge it so that we can move to a healthy place?
I guess to put it out there that this did happen. I mean, I've seen, I guess there was a video I've seen of Morgan Freeman that, he's at the end game, meaning that, peace, we're all as one. But he was saying, and I don't agree with him in this sense of, like a Black History Month, he's like, history's history. We're in the US, let it be history. I agree with him on that part, in the sense of that is a part of our US history. So let it be known. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, just put it all out there so everybody can be educated and then understand, what's going on. I love history, man. I mean, like it's awesome that you get to teach history. Actually, that was one of my favorite subjects. But I think it just needs to be out there, man. I think it just needs to be taught, and so everybody understands where people are coming from. Because I mean, to this day, as a coach, and I'm pretty sure that you probably heard it, or the kids just speak, they talk before they even think. And I hear kids that drop the N-word like it's like It's okay. It's just cool. It doesn't mean like that. I've had many conversations with my boys, and they know where Coach Jackson comes from now about it. But I mean, but when I first took over the program, it was in this, in that. Oh, it's like whoa, slow down. But it's because they're uneducated. They don't know where it comes from. You know what I mean? They don't fully get that grasp of like that was degrading. It still is, and it's not okay to say I don't care what color you are. I mean, and it's funny because of generations. Because my father, you hear certain people like, oh, blacks can say it to blacks. To my dad, that's absolutely no. You can't you can't say it at all. My generation, blacks on blacks can say it. That's okay, but I would never say it in front of my father because his generation before, it was intense. So, but again, I think it's just, we all need to be educated, and we all need to be willing to hear from everybody's point. And like you said, it is a relationship. And if we want this relationship to go positive, we got to be willing to have those difficult conversations and be able to understand one another and go forward.
Yeah. So here's a question that's kind of advice for me. You mentioned a previous school that you went to that you were kind of the token black guy. There's just not a lot of them. Our state has about 3.54% of our population is African American. It's not a high number. The school where I teach, very few African American students. We don't currently have an African American staff member.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
And so I try and bring on an African American coach when I can hire him. But we don't have one on staff now. We have had for a few years previous. But white staff members have a difficult time talking, I think, to a lot of the black kids, right?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid, well, what if I do this? Or are they going to think I'm racist? Or in my opinion, you just need to talk to them as kids. And if you see something out of line, or, how do you recommend that I would talk to a young African American or a group of guys or girls that might be acting in a certain way? And what if there's staff that are afraid to say something?
Yeah. I would say handle it in the same way, but understanding that there may be a little guard up for the black kids, and that's just, oh man, believe me, Dan, like I really wish it was just like, no, I'm gonna handle it and treat you the same I would treat you. Man, it's just unfortunate that it's not like that, man. Yeah. To be completely honest. And again, like for where I'm at, over here on this side of the tracks, I know majority of my kids are Hispanic, white, and black, but mostly Hispanic. And I know from one kid, I could talk to him who's white, and I can talk to him in a certain way, and he will fully get where I'm coming from, and he'll understand it. But if I took it over to another kid of color and explain it to him, or try to talk to him that way, he will deflect. And it's a cultural defense mechanism, and that's kind of the way I look at it. I still address all the boys with the same respect and the same tone of certain things, but I know that I might have to go a little further with this guy than I would be with this one. You know what I'm saying? It's, man, gosh, man, I just wish coaching was so much easier like it was back in the day, man. Like it was what it was. But I hope that was clear on, like, I hope that answered your question.
Well, I think it's sensitive, right? And
yes.
If they understand that you truly care about them and you've invested in them, it still might take some time to break down those walls and barriers, but they have to know you care for sure first. We freezing up here?
Gotcha. I think I got you now.
Good deal.
Yeah. No, It is sensitive. I'm still learning with it. Just about because my wife gives me a hard time, man. Because like I'm just, for me, it's like I'm gonna tell you, like I'm gonna tell him, and that's just how it was for me. But you have to come from a different angle, um, and I've learned these 2 years in order to reach certain kids. Because I mean, every kid is different. I mean, you got some kids that got both parents, at home. You got kids that live with grandparents, don't see neither one parent, so you don't know what's, they could be deflecting you off of what's going on at home, and it's more like we're not just coaches, we're psychologists, we're mentors, we're the Swiss Army knife, and they're going to hear from us more than a teacher. That's just kind of how it is. But I think just be aware, I guess, is the best thing. Just be aware of how do you approach it. Just understand, like, hey, he may take it this way, but I'm gonna let him know that's not what I meant, kind of a thing. I've had those I've had those conversations, and it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels like a pampering feeling, but I think at the end of the day, I think reaching out to the kids and doing what's best for them is our main goal.
Yeah. And I probably should have started with this when we started our conversation. I got to know you because we were part of a group of coaches who did a character challenge during COVID, right? And
yes.
So Brett Agata and Steve Valek got that started and did a great job. But to see you in there and bringing that to your kids during this time, it was obvious that you're about way more than just football, way more than just wins and losses, but investing in kids.
Dan, you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
You there?
I'm here. You got me?
You there?
Yep. Do you hear me? You're frozen. Oh, there we go. Back on? You're on mute.
Gotcha. Back on.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate you, with the character challenge and things. It shows where your heart is. And I find that so many of the coaching community is there. We want to win games and things, but we want to invest in the lives of kids. And
Exactly.
It's interesting as I am setting up these interviews. My first 3 are with coaches,
Yeah.
And it won't be the only 3, but the first 3 are going to be coaches. And I think the investment in the lives of the future is part of that. I also think athletics is a place where people don't look at the racial divide as much. We come together, we have to, and form teams.
Right.
So that's a place that I think has just been really beneficial. I'm hoping with COVID that we are able to go out there and compete, because I think that does bring a very healthy thing to our society that it needs right now, coming together like that. But
yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I agree with you 100%. I feel like, the absence of sports, sports is a great distraction.
Yeah.
It's a great distraction, and it builds everybody up, and it puts people in a situation where they have to work together. And again, like you don't see color in that scenario. You know what I mean? Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the character challenge. It was great to be a part of. It gave me the opportunity to connect with my boys in a different light, in a different way, and for a while they were having fun with it, and yeah, no, it was great to be a part of it, man.
Yeah. A couple more things I want to ask you about, and then if there's anything else that you want to add in. So we mentioned the split families, right?
Yeah.
and I think it goes across racial divides. I mean, statistically, half of marriages end in divorce, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a place where you and I and other people, whether it's teachers or coaches or whatever, although I think coaches get to invest in such a deeper level oftentimes, um, we need to be the mentors out there, because so many times I think there's the family breakdown is a huge part of what we're dealing with, and maybe why people don't know how to handle conflict in dealing with other races as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, do you have is there a mentor or somebody that was really influential in your life?
Yeah. You know, growing up, man, I mean, I've had many. Um, I don't know if that was just a sign of God, just, guiding me, and he put the right people in front of me. Um, but when it came to like the football aspect, my father, knew a guy that mentored him, during like his high school career of basketball and sports. So the guy that mentored me his name was Rayford Geis, and he's a local legend around here, and he, I would check with him, once a week, and most of the time we talked about football. But the one thing that I remember with him is afterwards, there was no way I was leaving like that meeting without talking about like how school,
Mm-hmm.
your stance, refocus, that refocus conversation. So had a mentor, and was
Great.
blessed to have one. So
Right.
was definitely blessed to have one, man.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he is still around, man. He's getting up there in age, but yeah, he's still around. He comes around, when we're playing, when our sports are going and
Uh-huh.
Pasco's playing, he's around, man, and
Have you
usually
had a
during.
chance to tell him the impact he had on your life?
Oh yeah, we sit, man. We
Awesome.
chat, and we talk about it, and he's definitely still He's still the same person, man. I
Yeah.
mean, he's still the same person, and explaining to him that his impact on my life was,
Mm-hmm.
where it was, and how I appreciate everything he did, and he's one of the reasons why I'm back, in Pasco, where I graduated from, and just trying to rebuild that culture, man. And he was one of the ones that was a part of that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I'm looking for is to bring in just regular people to talk, but you are that. But you're kind of a legend around Pasco, two-time state champion in the 100. What, 10.74? Is that what I heard was the PR?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And top 25 player in the nation coming out of high school, going to Nebraska and then Hawaii, and winning a state title as a junior in football at Pasco, right?
yeah, yes sir, yes
Yeah,
sir.
that's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah,
And to come back and invest in your community,
yeah.
I really respect that and appreciate that. Um, Let me ask, what would you tell? You've got 3 children.
Yes.
What will you tell them when they get to go drive and go out and are you worried about police encounters? And how will you talk to them about how they might handle that? Because when I've gone out in the past, like my heart beats if there's a police officer behind me, but that's like I might get a ticket and my insurance will go up, right?
Right,
Is
right.
that a concern for you? Has that been a reality for
Um,
you?
yeah. It's Man, it's rough, Dan. It's rough. Which even bringing that up, I remember I was, just a quick story. I was 11 years old, and my father picked me up because my uncle lives in Vancouver, Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
he picked me up, and we're getting ready to pass through Ellensburg, and my dad gets pulled over. Well, the cop tells my dad, like, well, hey, I'm pulling you over because you didn't use your signal, um, which was a lie, because I was paying attention to my dad. Like, my dad didn't know it, but I was paying attention to my dad driving because I was just interested in how to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And he put his signal on, but the cop said he didn't. And the cop harassed him, and it kept harassing him. I mean, it was like he was trying to go at my dad to do something foolish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my dad kept his composure, and that was that. My dad got his ticket, whatever, and we drove off. But leading up to all these current events now, Man, I'm nervous, man. I'm just, I'm truly nervous, and it's sad to say I'm least worried about a ticket.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, man. I mean, and I look at my son and, and I'm telling my 7-year-old how to prepare and where to keep your hands. We go outside and, we pretend like, okay, got pulled over. Where's dad's hands need to be on the wheel?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you respond to the cop? Yes, sir. No, sir. Give my contact. Be respectful. Okay. And it scares me, man, because my 2 daughters, they're a little older, and they talk to me. They're like, "Yeah, Dad, but what if you do everything right, but they mistaken you for somebody else, and you end up like George Floyd,
Yeah.
or you end up like Eric Garner, any of those other victims that And to hear that from a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, that's deep. That's a little deep. So trying to prepare them, mentally, and to understand the situation, not to panic, and to handle it the best that they possibly can, is the goal.
So talking through, having a plan. Hey, here's how we'd handle it, and
how you handle it. Yes.
Yeah.
How you handle it, and it's yeah, they got a few more years till they're driving and stuff, but definitely, definitely just worried, man. It's just think about when you were growing up, man. I remember leaving the house, especially in the summer, leaving the house, and going down to your friend's house, and you don't have to be home until the street lights come on. I don't think about that with my kids at all. Like you can't, they can't get 10 feet from me. I'm like, hey, where you going? Where you going? Get back here. So, but yeah, no, it's just a different time, man. Just a different time.
Let me ask this. How much do you think like the social media aspect plays in and adds to the fears that we have? Because when things happen, we hear about it all over the place. Whereas in the past, when you and I were kids, it might not hit the news cycle. Did you catch all that?
Oh yeah, I broke out, but I think I caught the gist of it, of like how social media plays into it.
Right.
Yeah. No. I think things were happening when we were growing up, but we didn't have the electronics or the access, to it.
Yeah.
So it does play a role. It plays a huge role of fear, right? It puts a lot of fear in a lot of people, and yeah, man. I mean, I wish, in some ways, I wish it was, not as intense, but at the same point in time, I guess it's a double-edged sword. We need to be informed on what's going on. So, but yeah, no, social media, man, and the camera phone definitely plays a big thing, because, things were still happening, again, it just may not have gotten to us. So.
And that's, like you said, the double-edged sword. It adds to our fears, which is a negative thing. Yet at the same time, what happened to George Floyd could have happened many times over without us ever knowing, and then you don't get the change that you want to see, right? So 2 last things I'd like to hear your opinion on. What would you like to see happen, whether it's from political leaders or reforms in police departments or whatever it might be? What would you like to see happen? And then what gives you hope for the future?
Gotcha. What I would like to see happen, honestly, I know, like, in our community, because I'm part of the Black Lives Movement over here, and we're communicating with our law enforcement. I have one of my assistant coaches is a police officer. So communicating with him. One of my friends that I work with at Pasco is also a police officer. So, a lot of people want to put this movement against the cops, when reality, our group, we're constantly communicating with officers and trying to mend this hate and trying to build a gap between us. One of the ideas is like, it would be nice to know your local officers.
Mm-hmm.
So why not like a community weekend where the community versus, the police officer softball or something, just any kind of way to bring the community together.
Awesome.
That way, when you may get pulled over by this officer, he knows you, and not saying that you're going to get out of a ticket, but I mean, there's going to be a relationship gap where he's going to be comfortable with doing his job where nobody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I want to see. I also want to see that, in a leadership, aspect of, it needs to be put out there.
Mm-hmm.
We can't pretend that this is not a real thing. That's my biggest gripe and my biggest concern is that it's going to be another thing that's swept under the rug.
Right.
And I don't want that. And lastly, my hope, man, is just in our Lord and Savior, man.
Amen.
I can't put, God says not to put faith in man, because we'll let you down. We'll let you down over and over and over and over again. But, through his word and believing in who the one is, he never fails. So I think if we turn and get on our knees and pray, God is going to see us through this.
Amen. You say through his word, and that's his word says that's where we renew our minds, right?
Yes.
And to me, this is a sin issue. And the opposite of hate is love. And
Right.
God is love. And that's what, as a fellow believer, that's what we're to be known as, is love.
Right.
Like that should emanate from us, right?
Right. Definitely, man. Definitely. It's just, man, it's crazy because it's the easy road.
Mm-hmm.
Hate is the easy road, man.
Yeah.
To love, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, but you reap the benefit from love, man. I mean, it's just destruction when it's hate.
Yeah. Well, hey, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and shut the recording off. And
All right.